Welcome back to Firefly Studios. My name is Kadia, and today we are going to talk about a meta concept, and this is going to be how to properly debug. So let's jump right into it. I have set up a script here, basic debugging, which has a bunch of errors in it, and we'll walk through how to solve these types of errors. So let me uncomment the first one. I'm going to save this script, and then I'm going to go to Unity. And right away, we'll see in this console tab down here that it says that there is an error. The yellow warning signs are optimization or updates. You can ignore those. You can actually click right here to remove them from your console line. The red ones are errors. That means your code will not compile or something is broken in our code. So here, if you look at this, it tells us what time the error occurred, which file it occurred in, and then which line in that file it occurred at, and then what the error was. So it occurred in my basic debugging script, line 8. So if I go to my basic debugging script and look for line 8, which is right here, it tells me that the error occurred here. So then the next part is, what is it expecting, or what is wrong with it? It says semicolon expected. Well, in this case, that's pretty straightforward. I just need to put a semicolon there, and that will fix that error. Let's go into another type of error. So if I uncomment this, this is going to throw an error. Now, this error is going to show a whole bunch of things. Like, oh my God, there's so many errors. It's really just one thing. You always want to start at the top of the stack of the errors to try and see what it is. So the top one says line 14, semicolon, or closed squiggly bracket expected. So we're going to go to line 16, closed squiggly bracket. That's this top one right here. And the reason for this is this variable is being put in the wrong place. So this is a global variable, like this one up here, and it needs to exist outside of a function. So what this is saying is it needs a closed squiggly bracket to go here to get rid of that error. Now there'll still be errors here because I've got a random squiggly bracket here. So I can delete this one. And now all that code down there went away. No problems with the code. Right here, it shows that there's two errors. So if I mouse over it, it says invalid token float in class record structure interface member declaration. The reason for that is you can't name a variable float because that is a type, not a name. So if I just name this var like this, then that error will go away. Now, if you go back to Unity, you will notice we have no errors at all. Generally, as a rule of thumb, I always like to keep these up top, but that's how you would solve that kind of error. All right, let's look at our next error. So currently right here, I have it set up. If I press 8 on the keyboard, we're going to Debug.Log, or log to the console, a test object's name. And I've got my test object right here. So there's no errors in my code. Let me attach this to this game object. And I believe it was the 8 key I had to press. I'm going to hit play and press 8, and we're going to see what's going to happen. So I press 8, and we have an error. So I'm going to exit out of play mode. And you can see down here it says null reference exception. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Line 27. So let's look at line 27. This is my debug. So null reference will happen when it doesn't know what something is. So in this case, we never assigned anything to this test object inside of Unity. So when it looks for the test object to get its name, it's going to be like, hey, I don't know what that is. I can't do this. And it's going to throw an error. So the way you would fix something like that is you would make sure that it is assigned. So now I have the option to put something into my test object. So I'm going to just grab this W object, and I'm going to press play, and we're going to hit 8 again. I'm going to turn off maximize on play. So I'm going to press play. I'm going to hit 8 again. And now it says W down here in the console, as opposed to saying that there's a null error. Null errors are very common. The easiest way to solve them and try and figure out what is going on with them is to step through your code one step at a time and try and isolate where it's happening. So in this case, it's very simple. You have a simple if statement inside of updates, so you know when it's happening. But there could be a scenario where it's several levels like deep into some code. So maybe it's in a function that's being called by another function that's being called by another function. What you can use here is Debug.Log statements to find out where your code is breaking. So an example of this is maybe I think my update loop isn't happening. So I'll put a Debug.Log update or something like that. That just tells me, okay, we hit our update loop. Then I'll put another Debug.Log that might say something like pressed 8. And then when I hit play, I'll look at the console to see which debugs are being called. So update's happening, so good. My update loop's happening. I hit play twice. So good, my update loop's happening. Now, if I press 8 on the keyboard, I see pressed 8 happen. So that tells me, okay, the code's working up to that point. Then it does the W. So it's a way to isolate code and figure out where things are broken. I hope you found this interesting. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Toss any questions in the comments if you need help with debugging anything. For the most part, the process of debugging just comes down to going through your code carefully, adding in debugs to figure out where your code is messing up, and solving whatever errors that the console tells you to solve.